Jack Bader's story began in Opatów, Poland, a town where daily life continued despite the distant echoes of war. Born on March 14, 1910, into a Jewish family, Jack was raised on Wide Street in a home that also housed the family bakery. He was a hardworking kid, and alongside his bakery duties, Jack pursued his passions through studying and drawing.
My favorite place for reading was on a ledge of a bake oven in wintertime. I would spend hours at night there, propped against the flue of the hot water heater, a kerosene lamp providing ample light. My father, at work below me at the bench, would suddenly remember that I am still awake and urge me. He never ordered me to go to sleep.
Even with the shadows cast by World War I, Jack's childhood was generally happy and safe under his parents' care. But his hometown was still caught in the crossfire. They endured food shortages and constant threat of artillery. Jack remembers soldiers breaking into the bakery and finding the bread unfinished, impaling dough on their bayonets to cook it in the fire. Those unable to reach the flames ate raw dough and handfuls of flour in a desperate bid to satisfy their hunger. As a young boy, he watched from a distance as corpses were slid into mass graves. Looking back, he writes,
A pitiful end to men's lives, but to boys of my age, as we stood at a distance watching, fascinated, without realizing the full tragedy of such events, it was just one more manifestation of things we didn't fully understand. They have left their mark on me, nonetheless, all these years.
In 1925, economic downturns compelled the family to consider migration. Jack's father, seeking a better future, decided to move to Canada. A year later, Jack would follow his dad and immigrate to Montreal.
We had, at last, arrived in Canada on June 19, 1926, where we were to spend the rest of our lives.
On January 16, 1945, Jack Bader's hometown was taken over by the Red Army. Only about 300 members of the Jewish community were known to have survived. In Montreal, Jack quickly found work in sign painting, starting off with a job for a kosher butcher, then an apprenticeship at a Coca-Cola sign shop, finally securing a job with a painting contractor. In the summer, he was assigned to outdoor work, painting on the rooftops of buildings. However, Jack Bader's work would end when he was diagnosed with tuberculosis and was given treatment at the Mount Sinai Sanatorium in the Laurentians, where he would spend almost a year of his life.
I, being considered a light case, required no special treatment outside of regular examinations. These showing steady improvement towards the end of winter, it was arranged for me to start doing a couple of hours' work every day. Having had experience in painting, I started at this in the nurses' quarters.
His time in Mount Sinai rekindled his passion for art, and when he returned home, he started to paint and draw for himself. This was when Bader started to frequent cafes, where he'd paint some of the pieces he was best known for. He would sketch from life the people he saw, and then later use these drawings as reference for his paintings.
In time, the owner of this place and staff got to know me as I went there more and more, sometimes staying late into the night. I could do that at this time, as the Depression was on, and I had lost my steady employment, working part-time when needed, or picking up jobs on my own. I spent a lot of time in cafes, amassing a great number of drawings, being part of the stream of life there, absorbing the atmosphere and observing the behavior of this segment of humanity. I saw things, but I did not judge them, nor condemn.
Jack's life changed in 1935 when he crossed paths with his future wife, Katie.
I spoke to Katie and suggested we stop off at a cafe for a beer, and, to my surprise, she agreed. I was then on my way home with my friend, and the three of us visited the Silver Door Cafe, had some beer and sandwiches, and, later, I took her home. As of that evening, a new phase in my life began.
Several months later, they were married on August the 10th, 1935. By 1937, Jack's artwork started gaining attention, with his street scenes and cabaret compositions being exhibited at local art shows. With the birth of his children, Douglas and Karen, Jack's life took on new challenges as he focused his time and his art into family life. He continued to exhibit, participating in shows at the Art Association and the Canadian Society of Painters in Watercolor. His work was also included in the Canadian Pavilion at the New York's World Fair. In 1946, Jack Bader sought a change of scenery and decided to spend the summer in New Brunswick. This would soon become a family tradition, as they would continue to visit the Maritimes for years to come, Jack painting everywhere he went. In 1949, Jack Beater transitioned to working from home full-time, prompting him to rent a studio on Beaver Hall Hill. Despite setting up a dedicated workspace, Jack found himself painting outdoors most of the time. Beater experienced many health issues throughout his life, and in 1953, he had to take a break from art due to a heart attack.
I spent 6 weeks at the Jewish General Hospital, the first few days under oxygen. I was abed most of the time, and the only person that was allowed to visit me was my wife. When I was, at last, allowed off the bed for short periods, I was pretty shaky and unsteady. After I came home, I was still confined to bed for a while, but gradually, I recovered enough to be allowed short periods outside, on the lawn, and, later, short walks. 2 more months went by before Dr. Maiman agreed to let me work again, not more than 4 hours a day.
During the summer, he and his family enjoyed swimming, berry picking on the hills behind their home, and fishing for speckled trout in the nearby streams and lake. In 1963, Simpson Sears in Toronto selected his works for the Canadian Art Showcase, influenced by actor and art connoisseur Vincent Price. This venture led to the sale of 50 of his pieces. Jack Beater was well known for exploring a wide variety of artistic mediums, and that also included sculpture, working in mediums such as limestone, marble, and wood. Jack's daughter Karen had moved to British Columbia in 1967, so Jack and Katie decided to extend their travels to the West Coast, where Jack would paint massive landscapes of Alberta mountains, BC harbors, and urban Vancouver scenes. In the late 1970s, Jack traveled a lot less. His focus in still life at this time was not a choice, but a necessity. The continued urbanization of his city encroached on his favorite nature spots. This caused Jack to focus on his garden. By 1987, he painted his final still life.
Well, I finally completed my watercolor of flowers. After having had a fairly good night, I got up at 7 a.m. and worked on it to my satisfaction until my wife came. She didn't wait for any nurses, but washed me herself and helped me put on my clean pajamas. That's my Katie.
Jack Beater died at approximately 6 p.m. on Friday, November 27, 1987. Despite his health issues and the changing world around him, he kept painting until the very end. Through it all, his art endured.